everyone knows it's coming back. I think there were some really big supporters in the House and the Senate that I really appreciated. Dan was one of them, and we had a decent amount of co-sponsors too. So it wasn't like we were just two crazy right-wing people.
We might be, but
we weren't going at all our lonesome.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it really makes you think about in these primaries we have going on about who's going to be there and actually support your Second Amendment rights. Because a lot of people say one thing because they like getting that NRA badge and sticking it on a mailer and saying they're supported by it, but there's a difference when it actually comes to voting and doing what you need to do. So I was just saying keep that in mind. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer. My background's not in law.
Good! We got too many lawyers. Karyn, in addition to being a candidate for office, you're you're an entrepreneur, a small business person. So with that background, how does that inform your views, and what are your views on Stand Your Ground?
Well, I think the small business part probably doesn't shape my views as much as my background and my upbringing. So
Okay.
I'm in a very rural district. Been there most of my life. I was trained to shoot guns from a very young age. We're a gun-toting family, I guess you'd say. We are very much believers that God gives us the right to defend ourselves, and the Second Amendment keeps the government out of it. And I've read both, so I'm coming from a lay person. I have not written bills. I've not been in politics. So I read over what's current and what was proposed. And, I had some little things, and I'm a firm believer in we should be able to defend ourselves. So stand your ground. I have no problem with that. There's things that, as a lay person, I look at and I say, well, what if this happened, or what if that happened? So one of them was about the person not being, or it was not in unlawful possession of a weapon used to employ deadly force. That was in the new one. So I have a scenario for you. I have a 15-year-old daughter who, just like me, learned to shoot from a very early age. She's probably better than me most days. She's a good shot. She's very well versed on how to use a weapon. So what if I had a weapon in my vehicle? I get out of my car to get gas, so I'm not on my property. I get attacked by somebody. She gets my gun, gets out of the car, and shoots that person. Is she in lawful possession of the weapon?
I don't know. And
She's 15.
We'll ask Bob that as well when we come back around. But of course, it's an interesting
So I'm
question.
not playing devil's advocate for you.
Please, by all means, I welcome it. And of course, we need to recognize there's at least two moving parts here. That is, one always has a right to self-defense. Within the context of self-defense, what do we have to do? So if we start the fight, we don't get to exercise self-defense because we started it. Now there are sort of complicated scenarios where once you retreat, you can then exercise it. But as a simple matter, you started, you can't then claim the right to self-defense. Without stand your ground, if someone is an aggressor and they come after you, and a jury later decides that you had the opportunity to retreat, remember, they're not asking you what you thought. They're asking you what a reasonable person would have thought in your circumstance. And the reasonable people are the jurors, none of whom have been in your circumstance. And they're going to ask, did he do the right thing? And then the prosecutor's going to dissect it up on a whiteboard and show you slow motion video if such a thing exists and say, well, of course, anybody would see, sitting here in the calm of a trial with video replay and whiteboard markings, that you could have gone behind that tree. So stand your ground in that context would allow the jury to convict you. Excuse me, the absence of stand your ground would allow the jury to convict you. Stand your ground would remove that element of the question. So we'll let Bob answer whether or not she would be a lawful holder of the gun, but if she were, or excuse me, if she were not, it would simply remove that defense, but not otherwise preclude the self-defense claim, of course.